Whispers of Wisdom, where we journey together through ancient wisdom and hidden practices, seeking what lies beyond.
So, what do you see as a problem in the modern food habits that we have? Do you see, is that a problem?
Yes, I think there's a big problem. I think as we've evolved as a society, food has become about taste and convenience in the larger population.
Yes.
Just taste and convenience, right? We're always like, think of any family in the city. What is the conversation around food? What are you going to eat?
Yeah.
What do you want to eat?
What do you want to eat? Okay.
Right? Is that
Yeah,
that's how
yes.
family conversation around food is? What do you want to eat today? Or what is easy to get or easy to make? Let's say the lady of the house is cooking, then you're cooking what's easy to make. Also, that's what's tasty and what's accepted by the family, right? So those are the two things that define food. And now with the explosion of food delivery apps and food that's so easily accessible to us, now it's about what cuisine do you want to eat?
Wow. It's not even the cuisine that you grew up with.
Yes.
You have access to so many
Yeah.
different cuisines.
At least in the city, right? For most of us.
Yeah. I remember growing up in my grandmother's house, meal prep for the next day used to happen the previous day. Like, you bring the greens and everybody is, cleaning it out, or you have these different vegetables you're cutting, cleaning, you're prepping it for the next day. You know what you want to make for the next day. And it's a whole affair.
Yeah.
Grandkids are sitting there,
Yeah.
children are sitting there, conversations are happening, garlic's getting peeled.
We've outsourced cooking now. Either by the cook or through food delivery apps.
Yeah.
So it's something that we are getting very disconnected from.
Mm-hmm.
And the efforts should work towards understanding. I think in both systems, if you outsource it, that's fine. But we need to kind of have a little more control over or understand the role that food plays in our life.
Absolutely. So you've traveled all around the world and you've tasted different cuisine. But there's also the study about eating the cuisine that your ancestors, ate. And, it's easier for the body. It recognizes it. It breaks it faster for you, etc., etc. So what's your understanding of that?
I think that's changed. I think the concept of local and seasonal, I agree with that a lot, but that's changed a lot in the last 20 to 50 years, only because everything travels. Humans travel. People travel for 2 days to New York and come back. That's the way everything is moving so much. Seeds are traveling. Broccoli was not grown 20 years ago in India. It's very common now. Blueberries are grown organically in Tamil Nadu right now.
Wow.
We didn't have the land for it, but we can bring soil. We can create an environment now.
Yeah. So it's nothing local.
So if it's grown in and around your land, it's local. So we have an understand there's a gap there. There's a disconnect in our brain that makes us feel like, blueberries are not Indian. No. But if it's growing on your land now, why is it growing there? Because everything has changed. And now food is being grown as a commodity. Food is being grown to yield larger crops to feed more people. It's a business.
Right.
Now, more than farming, it's a business.
Yeah.
So, a lot has changed.
So is there an intelligent way to choose your food? What would you like if there's one little secret or like one little trick or tip that you would give us? How should we eat every
I love
day?
saying this. This is an interesting part. It's very simple. You always want to look at your food. And now let's divide this into we eat for taste, we eat for pleasure, we eat for tradition, for culture, for celebration. And when you're eating for these things like celebration and fun, I don't think that's the best time to really focus a lot around nutritive value, because there are things about tradition, culture, celebrations, emotions also people, right? So when you're doing that, it's a very different concept. I'm talking about the daily. Yeah. Now let's take a small family, for example. you want to bring these children up or the family wants to eat healthier. We're talking about everyday breakfast, lunch, dinner of food that's being prepared. Devoid of those functions, traveling, not that, okay? The regular. You want to eat according to how nature intended. By that I mean, how close is this food to nature? I'm going to give you 3 examples. So it's going to be very easy to understand. First, we eat from this pyramid of what we call plants. And to most people, plants sounds like some grass or some weed growing off the... But when we say plants, we mean fruits, all the fruits in the world that's available to you that's grown, all the vegetables that you can find in your market, all the grains that you can find in your market or wherever you buy your stuff from, preferably in their whole form. And when we say whole form, I would encourage everyone to understand how the food is grown. This is where it gets interesting. We are disconnected from how food is grown. We don't know how the food looks like.
Right. In its raw
form, on the field.
On the field.
Like, how does rice look like on the paddy?
Yeah.
We have that image, but we don't know how it comes to this white rice that comes on a plate, right? We don't know how that's happening. Get into that. Understand the food.
Okay.
So if you look at grains, they have 3 layers on it. One is that big husk. Have you seen driving past cornfields and paddy fields? You see the grass? You have the husk. It's not edible. Right. Your inner intelligence knows when something is edible or not. You don't need any authority or anybody to tell you this is edible or not. You give a baby a banana, the baby will throw out the banana peel.
Correct.
You don't need to be taught these things.
Yeah.
We all are gifted with incredible inner intelligence where we know exactly what to eat to keep our bodies in the healthiest state. The problem is we've gone away from that. So eating close to nature is look at how the food is grown and then understand the processing. Understand from that farm, where did it go next? What happened there? Then what happened? Now backtrack and try to eat food that came directly from the farm without the processing. And those 3 examples are grains, because we eat a very grain-centric diet in our country.
True. Yeah.
I'm from South.
Yeah.
So we eat, right, most of
rice, dal.
Rice is very integral and, staple for us. Breakfast, lunch and dinner, whether it's in the form of an idli or a dosa or it's, a rava, a grain. Lunch. And then again, dinner, there's some rice. So if you're looking, or maybe wheat. So since grains are so staple to us, try to eat grains that are in its whole form. And today we are very aware of millets, right? Last year was the year of the millet. So millet is actually indigenous. It's what we grew. Rice we stole from China. Millet grew here in our country. So it's very local. Before rice we ate millets. And so millets is really there. Ragi, jawar, bajra, kodo millet, foxtail millet, barnyard millet, little millet, and I can go on. So there's lots, and you just go through Big Basket or any of the apps. You go online and you'll find Amazon. You find all these millets. Buy them in their unpolished form and alternate. Eat whole grains. Move away from white rice. So white rice is nothing but the really polished stuff. You take the husk off. Husk is not edible. Then you have a layer of bran. It's actually not one layer. It's multiple layers of bran. All grains have that. That's the most nutritious part of any grain.
And that's the one that's getting polished.
That's the one that's taken off. When we say polished rice, we take that off. So when you look at the grain, it has that covering on it, like brown rice, red rice, black rice. You see that layer of bran, that's where all the nutrition is. That has the protein, have you heard of rice bran oil?
Yeah,
Comes from there.
Yes.
So it has even good fats in it. It has all of that.
But isn't it dense when you eat that kind of rice? Which has more of this.
It does. It does make you feel, because when you're eating nutrient-dense foods, you don't need a lot. You can eat very little and be satisfied with it.
Yeah.
And because we're a grain heavy or population that's eating a lot of grain, convert your grains into the whole form. That grain went into different processing methods to become a white rice or maida or, the polished versions of it. So when you switch back to whole grains, a lot will change in your body. You'll feel fuller, faster. You'll feel more nourished. You need to eat very little. And there's a very interesting thing that nature does, okay? Food that's in its natural form is not addictive.
Okay.
If you give me a white rice biryani, I'll belt it.
Yes.
I'm a Bangalore girl.
Yeah.
I'll eat it.
And I'll eat it, the remaining for the dinner also.
And there were days, I would eat all of it at one go.
Yeah.
So, but you cannot do that with brown rice.
Yes.
Try eating chapatis and then ragi chapatis. You cannot eat ragi. You can't eat more than, no matter how proudly you call yourself as a foodie and you can eat a lot, you cannot eat more than 2 or 3 ragi chapatis because it's so filling. That's what nutrient-dense food feels like.
Wow.
You cannot overeat what is whole. Nature has intended it. Have you tried eating sugarcane?
Yeah.
Ever? How
Yes.
much can you eat?
I mean, with all the effort and all of that, hardly like
Little bit. Very
3
little.
inches.
What do you get for
Max.
Sankranti? Just a little,
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. But it's satisfying, right?
Very satisfying, very
satisfying.
exciting,
Yes.
very playful, reminds me of childhood,
Yeah.
all of those things. Now, how much sugar cane is needed to make white sugar? Okay. To make jaggery. How much sugar cane is needed? So nature has put its high fat and high sugar food in places where you can't overeat.
Wow.
How many nuts can you eat?
Yeah. I
Just
love
not
that.
salted and, fried and all of that. Just nuts off the shell. All nuts come in a shell,
Yes.
So imagine climbing the trees, opening the shell. I love pistachios. But I won't eat those shelled ones because tedious.
Yeah.
So we won't do that. We'll only take enough that's required for that momentary energy. And when you study evolutionary nutrition, you understand how human beings would eat to survive.
Yeah.
And so all of these high fat, you don't find oil in nature.
You have to extract it.
Exactly. So you have to take nuts and seeds,
Wow.
then put it through these really, really intense, hardcore man-made machines
Yes.
that extract only the fat and it becomes oil. And all the good stuff, which is the fiber, which is the, so imagine groundnut oil, for example. Now groundnut or peanuts, very, very nutritious, very high in proteins, very high. We know all about how amazing whole peanuts can be in nutrition.
Yeah.
But you're taking only the fat and making oil, and all that fiber is just thrown away or used for other things.
So are you saying nature has not given us oil, so our food doesn't require oil? You don't use oil in your food?
Yeah. We don't have a single oil bottle. Like, no oil, no
And
sugar.
the kind of food that's dished out on plates, they're kebabs.
Yeah, there's everything.
There's
There's
everything.
There are omelets and pakodas made without oil.
I
and
had
there
your
is-
pakoda.
There are pastas and musakas and biryani.
The pita.
Ragi pitas and med platters and biryani.
You
and
gave us a
sourdoughs.
couple of pieces and then I was so hungry. I said, I'm going to be eating all of this. I don't know what these other friends of mine are eating. But the 3 of us ate it for the next 45 minutes. Like you said, it's dense. It's not addictive. It's slow. And you have to really think about it as you eat. It's not something I can have a conversation and keep gulping and munching.
Mindless
it and
eating does not happen
it
in
doesn't
nature.
happen.
Nature's way of eating.
Okay. All right. So you spoke about the 3 things. You spoke about plants. Then you spoke about the pulses.
I spoke about, the 3 things. I'll recap. So I wanted to speak about how, to go back to how can we understand if food is nutritious? Just look at what it was in nature. Very simple. That's the answer. How do you know if something is healthy? Ask yourself, how does it look like in nature?
Yes. See, Upasana, my question is, I want to do this. Like, this is just a common man asking you, right? You've been through a transformative experience in your life. You've dedicated, you see this as, your very thing. Like, there are people like us who will give all kinds of excuses. I don't have time, or like, I want somebody else to do it, or, I genuinely don't have access to that kind of intelligence. I don't know what you mean. Like, I can understand what you're saying. I see there is a lot of truth in that. But like, as a common person, I don't know.
So,
Is there a way to simplify
yes.
it?
You go to your why.
You go to your why.
Why do you want to be healthy? Have you identified that food is one of the most important things to keep your body healthy?
Yeah.
And with the work I've done, I've seen people going off depression medicines, anxiety pills, when they start eating right food in the right time, in the right combinations. And yes, you can use guidance for it. And I definitely encourage using good guidance to understand that. I think it does require, which is why I professionally studied nutrition, because it felt great while I was reading through books and doing it, but I wasn't sure if that's it, and I didn't know how to stick to it. So yes, professional guidance might be needed, but it's very simple to do it even for one who does not want to take that up right now. How do I get started today? So in that sense, then first you go back. It's not so much about how you're doing it. It's about understanding the why before. So if you can understand that food is important for our well-being, then understand why being healthy is important for you, because eating healthy is and can be monotonous. It can be boring. But with effort and interest, then you can, change that. Like for me, I love cooking. So my journey was exciting when I was doing this change, because I really loved cooking. My friends were very worried when I switched to this lifestyle.
Yeah. No,
what are you
become
gonna cook?
what you eat and
Yeah.
see what you've become. Like this energetic spring that is self-generating that much power and awe-inspiring to, people around you, and that aura that you bring in and the light, I think it requires all of us to give that thought to the why of it,
The
right?
why.
We are always looking at the what and the how of it. The why is often missed out. in
And
this.
then the answer is very simple. I mean, the more we have complicated health, yeah. We have really overcomplicated
Yeah.
health.
It's not so.
It's not at all. And I know, even in conversations like this, people are trying to listen to the juicy, complicated part
Yeah.
of what I need to do.
Exactly.
Everyone
Yes.
wants to know what is that magic. There is
No magic.
nothing like that. It's very simple. I'll ask you a simple. How many fruits do you eat in a day?
One.
Yeah, increase that. If you're doing 1, do 2. If you're doing 2, do 3. How many vegetables do you eat in a day? And how many raw vegetables do you eat in a day?
None.
So then start. Bring in salads. How much water are you drinking?
Okay.
Are your grains whole or are they refined? How much percentage of it is whole? Because I know now homes, we're bringing in the millet, but that's a one-off case, not a daily. Let's do it daily.
No, you're absolutely right. When you spoke about taste and convenience, I'm the convenience person.
All of us are. All of it, nothing wrong about it. We can make healthy food convenient. Okay, we can. It's very easy. It's a matter. My best analogy or example for this is when you switch your career or your job, let's say, even if it's in the same field, you change your job. You've been in a job for 10 years and you go to this new place.
Yeah.
Aren't you going to feel a little unsettled in the first few weeks?
Absolutely.
That's what it feels like in a new lifestyle. When you're trying to do healthy things, it's about that momentary decision. Every time you put a plate for yourself, even if it's made, by the cook or the help, or it's made by someone else, look at the plate and ask yourself, how can I make this more nutritious?
Right.
Put some seeds, put some raw food, like put some cucumber, tomato, onions, things like that.
Yeah. Basically, just introduce the boring, regular stuff.
Exactly. And it's not boring if you want to give it time and effort to learn how to make it fun and exciting like we do at the cafe.
Right. Big question, is sugar bad?
let's break down what is sugar. The simplest name of a carbohydrate is sugar.
Okay. Yeah.
So a human body requires carbohydrates as its main fuel source. We're not talking about you and me and our blood type, and we're not talking about that. When we talk about human beings, zoom out, look at us as 8 billion and counting. Look at us now and before and in the future as a species, the whole human race.
Right.
We are one species that belongs to this earth. What does the species thrive on? We thrive on plants. We are herbivores. If you cut open a human body, a herbivore and a carnivore and an omnivore, we resemble herbivores.
Herbivores. Okay.
Okay, so we are survival creatures. So we could eat meat to survive. So nothing wrong in that. If I couldn't, who would eat meat? You know, back in the day, there's a thing, the hunter-gatherers would eat a lot of meat. Yeah. It's not the case because it's very difficult to go hunt. Then to go, there's no refrigeration. So what is going to happen to that carcass?
It's illegal to hunt anything.
Yeah, it's illegal. So, and to eat meat. So if you're looking at meat, we were hunter-gatherers, so we would eat a lot of meat. It wasn't easy. It was easier to eat plants compared to hunting and eating meat. The meat consumption increased only after the invention of fire, which was much later.
Okay.
Then with the invention of refrigerators and civilization, that's a different story. But human beings can thrive, not just survive, thrive on plants. Now, the most interesting structure of a plant is carbohydrates. Carbs, which is so unfortunately got this really bad reputation now. I feel really bad for it. Yeah. So 60%, and don't really go down to the minuscule calculation. I'm just look at a pie chart. 60% of your energy or fuel comes from carbohydrates. Next question, what are carbohydrates? All plants are carbohydrates.
All plants.
All plants. They have energy, so there's an energy in it. That energy is called carbohydrate. A sugar molecule is also a carbohydrate. That's the simplest form. So all plants are carbohydrates. Do you know all plants also have proteins? Yeah. All plants have proteins.
Only recently I know that.
So all plants have, so when nature gave you food, it did not break it down into carbs, proteins, fats, vitamins, minerals. It's a complete package. So if you're talking about, is sugar bad for you?
Yeah.
If you're eating sugarcane, eat as much as you want. If you're eating foods that have this magic word, which I'm going to use repeatedly from now, called fiber. If the fiber, which locks the sugar inside that food, is present in the food, eat as much as you like dates, figs, raisins, apricots.
Hey, okay.
But my question is, how many dates would you be able to eat?
No,
that's a different story, because that's nature's intelligence. Right? You can't overdo healthy food.
Right.
So if the sugar is in its whole form, eat as much as you like.
Okay. So what is the sugar that we should not be consuming?
Where the fiber is taken away. Jaggery, there's no fiber. Honey, there's no fiber.
No. Isn't honey a natural source of sweetness and made by the bees?
It may be natural, but it doesn't have fiber in it. It has the same problem that sugar has. No fiber, high sugar. The minute you consume honey, it just gets absorbed in the bloodstream, and then your body has to process it. So make a lot of insulin. It has to go into the cell. A lot of, imagine you walk into work at 9 a.m. and then you're given this big pile of files. So first thing in the morning, you put honey and lemon, and then you look at this big pile of files coming. You're not even started your work, but you're going to be tired looking at it. Again at 1 o'clock, a big pile of work comes to you. How are you going to feel? Again at 4 o'clock, again at 8 o'clock.
Yeah. And why is jaggery made the noble brother of sugar? As if it's okay to consume it. Is jaggery
Industry?
Okay?
I don't know. It's just about, it's
is the same culprit in another form and shape and color.
It's all marketing. Have you ever seen an ad for carrots and gobi and avrekai?
No.
Why are you not seeing ads for tur dal, masoor dal? Yeah. Don't eat foods that are advertised.
Simple other way to figure it out, right?
I'm telling you, it's very simple.
It's very simple.
And it's fun. I think we try to make it very complicated and we think from today I'm healthy. No, it's a journey. You make one healthy choice, you understand it, you experience it, you celebrate it, you enjoy it, then you learn more, then you learn more, then you learn more. And nature will keep giving you the answers if you're listening. And I'm going to tell you something very interesting here. Nature is always telling you something. Man is always selling you something.
Wow.
That's the name of my book.
Nature is always telling you something. And man is always selling you something. You're writing a book?
Yeah. Nature is always telling you something. Man is always selling you something.